In the past 24 hours, two people that I follow here on YouTube, or I follow on YouTube if you're listening to this on Rumble, basically came out and did some videos on AEW. Now, one of them that got uploaded today was a clip from Tuesday Night Titans. That is a collab YouTube podcast done by JD from NY206 and Andrew Baydala, as well. Andrew Baydala, he has a SoundCloud, Twitter, Facebook podcast that he does audio-wise here and there, and he sometimes pops up with little Twitter vids, giving his thoughts on things and so on. But him and JD did, an episode of Tuesday Night Titans where this clip came from, where they talked about an interview that O'Shea Jackson did with Chris Van Vliet. And there was something that O'Shea Jackson said in there, which is very telling coming from someone like him. Now, on the other end, we had just Alex kind of do I guess you could say, a continuation of a video he did about a month or two ago talking about AEW and its problems. And he basically stood by what he said there in the original video and emphasized it even more here in this newer video. And the reason I bring both of these up is because they kind of have a lot in common. They basically have the same theme to them when it comes to the topics and reasonings why they believe AEW has problems. And that is the fact that they are not promoting their product, and the stars that they have as part of that product in the way they should. I mean, when it comes to the big stars, everybody knows who Bryan Danielson is, everybody knows who Adam Cole is, and Adam Copeland is, and Christian Cage, and so on. And that's great, but what about the other stars you're bringing in? What about the stars that, you say are big-time gets because they competed elsewhere? What do we know about them? And that is a continuous problem when it comes to AEW, because it seems that Tony Khan, being a fan himself, has this belief, and this is just my opinion, but you can kind of tell that it's felt, very similarly across, both platforms that I talked about. Tony Khan has this problem of being a fan himself that, he believes that if you are a true wrestling fan like he is, you'll already know who some of these talents that he's bringing in are. Like, you already know who the stars of CMLL, are. You'll know who some of the stars of AAA are. You'll know who some of the stars of Rev Pro are. You'll know who some of the stars of New Japan, All Japan, Pro Wrestling Noah are. He has this belief that you already have an idea of who these people are and what they bring to the table. I mean, one of the recent signings that he made that's being all elite but still competes on the indies is Brian Keith. And obviously he expects people to know who Brian Keith is, but guess what? Not everybody does. Not everybody knows who Brian Keith is. And the only people that would know who he is those that see him compete on the on the indies in the Oklahoma, Texas, Midwest, Southwest region, and that's it. Those are the only people who would know who he is, or anybody that follows RCW, Reality Championship Wrestling, which is Booker T's promotion out of Houston. Those are the only people that would know who he is. Everybody else outside of that would not. And that's an issue. I mean, you have this, what is her name? Queen Amelis, whatever her name is. She just became all elite. And do people know anything about her? No. I mean, you have the commentators trying to, basically, plug exposition, in background into her character, for those that may not know who she is, expecting, if you want more information, go ahead and YouTube it or Google it or whatever. But, that's the issue right there. It's like, even they, in their own way of saying, by, trying to catch you up with who these people are, it's like their way of saying, if you want to know more information, look her up. And that doesn't help them. That doesn't help them whatsoever. And then the other issue as well is you have talent that people do know about because of where they've been elsewhere, mostly WWE or TNA, that you're not, spotlighting when you should. People like Athena, who is right now considered the longest reigning women's champion in Ring of Honor history. She's the longest reigning women's champion in Ring of Honor history. And yet you're not spotlighting her on AEW and building her up as being someone that can now also go after the AEW women's title. And that's an issue because people know who Athena is, but you're hiding her away in Ring of Honor. And that's not good. That's not good. And then you take a look at, Ring of Honor itself. I mean, you're not building that up as much as you should. You're just once in a while saying, oh, this is Ring of Honor's next event. I mean, what? On Wednesday, what did they do? Just announce that Supercard of Honor is going to happen the weekend, of WrestleMania in Philadelphia? Same city, but different, venue location? It's like, okay, fine, but who are you going to have on the card besides those you're featuring on the poster? Who's going to be highlighted? Why should we care? Why should we even care to tune in and subscribe to Ring of Honor and Honor Club? You see, these are issues that Tony Khan, has a problem with. And this is an issue that people like O'Shea Jackson and people like JD and Andrew Baydala and even just Alex and others are pointing out. These are issues to where, look, if you want us to care, tell us who these people are. Do video packages. Hype them up. Do vignettes. Let us know who they are so we can care about what they're going to bring, to the company. Let us know who they are. I mean, if there's one difference, believe it or not, that TNA does do better than AEW is when they get somebody, on their roster, whether they make a surprise debut at a pay-per-view or not, or even before they make a debut, guess what they do? They do some vignettes to build that person up. They let us know, hey, this guy or this gal is coming to TNA. I mean, let's take a look at Hard to Kill. Ash by Elegance, the former Dana Brooke. What did they do with her? They brought her in, they hid her identity, even though some people knew who it was, finally showed her in the crowd, and what have they been doing since? They've been basically building her up through vignettes, and they finally had her announce, yeah, I'm going to be competing in my first TNA match within a week or so. That right there is how you introduce maybe a new audience that doesn't know who Dana Brooke is, doesn't know about her WWE ties. That's how you introduce people to a character, to someone new, to get them prepared to actually give a damn of who is going to be competing in the ring. I mean, even Nick Nemeth, if you will, the former Dolph Ziggler. Yeah, people know who he is and everything. And guess what you're doing, to build up his feud with Steve Maclin? What are you doing? You're basically cross-promoting a little bit, the whole story, and you're showing video footage of it. I mean, what did they show? A week ago on Impact? What did they show? They showed Maclin showing up in World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico after Nick's match and attacking him, thus continuing the storyline and feud and program that Nemeth is going to be part of, right off the bat. They're giving you a reason to get invested. Is AEW doing that? No. The only thing they got people invested in right now that's selling out the Greensboro Coliseum, or the Greensboro Coliseum, is Sting's retirement. That's the only thing you got people invested in, is, that storyline. Because why? It's Sting's retirement, and people are going to be curious as to where Sting goes from there. If he wins, does he vacate the tag titles, or does Darby get a new partner? Who knows? See, these are situations that people actually wonder about. And if they could do that with Sting and going into his retirement, then why can't they apply that same kind of effort into everybody else, in presenting them, to us and making us give a damn as to who they are. The one issue the one issue everybody agrees with, that Tony Khan, like I mentioned earlier, seems to think people need to rely on, and by extension it, infiltrates itself to the commentators, is, go and check them out in CMLL, go check them out in AAA, look up the past work in New Japan and all that. And you have these fans, as some people, I think O'Shea Jackson called it himself. He said it himself. You have these fans, these toxic fans that basically buy into it. They buy into it and make wrestling unenjoyable for a lot of folks. They make AEW and to an extent WWE and even TNA unenjoyable because of their toxicity and them feeling like, hey, if you're a real wrestling fan, you'll look it up. And it's like, not everybody thinks the same way they do. And that's the point people are trying to get across. That's the point that O'Shea Jackson's trying to get across. That's the point that JD's trying to get across. Andrew Baydala, just Alex Hicks, Jason Solomon the Sounds Off, OTR Central, Jeff Siegel, the Shrek Daddy. These are points people are trying to get across to those fans, that not everybody is on the same wavelength as you or as them. And that's a fact. Because not everybody's going to be like, Rev Pro is going to start a live event in just a little bit. I got to tune into it. You know why nobody will do that? Because Rev Pro, even if they have a show, an IPPV, if you will, an internet pay-per-view, live at 8 o'clock British time, if you will, 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock British time, guess what a lot of people are doing here in the States? If it's on a Saturday. What are a lot of people doing? If it's on a Saturday, a lot of people are actually just getting up. Or a lot of people, are just, basically, getting on the road to go on a family trip, or, like I said, everybody's just, getting on the, just getting up, after resting for a while because they've had a long week at work. Or they're just getting on the road because they're going to a family gathering, or they're going on a vacation, or heck, they're going to attend a ball game, in the local, for their major league team. People are doing more than just focusing on, I gotta tune in and watch. I gotta tune in and watch a Rev Pro event, which locally for them, like for me here on the West Coast, starts at 11 a.m. I could still be asleep, or I could be working. I can't just stop everything I'm doing and be like, I gotta watch this Rev Pro event. No, we can't. Nobody's going to do that. No one. No one's going to do that whatsoever. And this is why when people make the comparison as to why WWE is leagues above, leagues and light years ahead of AEW in how they present things, WWE this past Monday actually had the courtesy to let us know the time slots as to when we could watch Elimination Chamber. And watch it live, by the way. Trying to think about what I'm saying because I'm doing this off the top of my head. But they had the courtesy to let us know, when, it was going to air in all local markets here in the U.S. And you know why they did that? Because they know people might be asleep, but if they want to stay up and watch it, here's the times it starts. You know what time it starts here, ladies and gentlemen? It starts at 2 a.m. on the West Coast. Live. 2 a.m. live. You know what time it starts on the East Coast? Huh? It starts at 5 a.m. live. You think Solomon is going to get up at that time? Solomonster is going to get up at that time and watch a pay-per-view at 5 a.m. when he could be resting comfortably in his bed? No. Do you think JD is going to get up at around 5 a.m.? watch, Elimination Chamber live when he could be resting in his bed? He could just watch the replay later? No. Think Baydala is going to do it? No. You think just Alex is going to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and be like, I got to watch Elimination Chamber now? No. Nobody's going to do that. No one's that stupid. This is why when people say that WWE is light years and leagues ahead of AEW, it's because they have the courtesy to let them know, hey, this is when it's coming on. If you want to stay up and watch it, that's your choice. If not, just letting you know. They're giving people the option. They're giving people the option. And guess what? For what is considered basically the pay-per-view before WrestleMania, they're actually building up that pay-per-view very well. They got intricate storylines going in there, and they're giving us a damn reason to care. They're giving us actually, for a lot of fans that have always been critical about her, they're actually giving people a reason to care about Nia Jax and her feud right now with Rhea Ripley. Everybody is questionable about Garrison Waller, if you will. But they're actually giving you a damn, or they're actually making you give a damn, I should say, as to care about him and his talk show, The Grayson Waller Effect, in Sydney. Oh, now in Perth, I should say. In Perth. They're giving you a reason to care. Why? Because Because they want you to get invested. They want you to, wonder and, they want you to wonder and comprehend what's going to happen next. AEW, with a few exceptions, isn't doing that. And again, like I said, TNA does a better job than that. And that's hard to even fathom. I mean, in the past, TNA would be the second best wrestling company in the country, outside of WWE, but would be light years, leagues below them. Light years below and, leagues below them. Here, TNA is now in that third spot, but yet people would say, oh, they do a better job presenting up, a product better than AEW, because they give you background on who they are. I think when they had El Vicino Kingo, or whatever his name is, El Vicino Kingo, the AAA Mega Champion, what did they do? Did they just put him on there saying, oh, this is the AAA Mega Champion, Google him? No, they actually built him up. They did. The point I'm getting at is that when you have people like a notable individual like O'Shea Jackson, coming out and saying what he did about AEW and its toxicity of fans that only care about, the in-ring product and not the presentation, not the storytelling, the cinema, as he put it, that should be presented to make you give a damn about who these men and women are and give you actual stories that go along with what you're seeing in the ring. That is a bad omen. Maybe not massively bad, but it's bad. And when you have YouTubers, wrestling reviewers, content creators that are very well known in the community that actually also have a bit of wrestling experience commentating wise, like JD and Salamonster, coming out and telling you that, yeah, what O'Shea Jackson said is true, and, AEW should be ashamed of themselves. That's not a good sign either. And even someone that's known for being a wrestling fan for as long as he has, someone that's known for actually talking to some of the talent in AEW when he gets the opportunity, for him to come out and say, yeah, you got a problem, not just with your attendance, but with your presentation of who these men and women are and why we should give a damn and the stories they should be involved in and who you should be focusing on. Again, it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. And the attendance, too, is an issue as well. I mean, Tony Khan has to be asking himself, he has to be asking himself, well, somebody should be asking him, actually. Now that I think about it, somebody should be actually asking him, Tony, why do you want us to book these 20,000-seat arenas when all we could actually get in the arena as of late is like 5,000, maybe 9,000, 10,000 fans at most? Why have us book these venues? Why don't you have us book something smaller? That's an issue as well. And hopefully the new person, which by the way, ironically just got hired by AEW to be its VP of content creation and be part of its creative team, which again is ironic since this hiring got announced via Fightful Select, PW Insider, and whatnot. A day or two after the O'Shea Jackson interview by Chris Van Vliet. Kind of ironic in my opinion. Kind of ironic. But, hold on. Here you have Tony Khan hiring this person, ironically around the same time that interview dropped. You got to wonder if maybe she is going to ask him, Tony, why are you booking these bigger venues when you can't draw that much? And hopefully, maybe, as some people are looking at, that might be a positive decision that Tony has made to where maybe she'll come around and say, Tony, until you build your fan base back up, you got to book smaller arenas. You got to book smaller venues. Because here's the thing. It's one thing to book, the Greensboro Coliseum for Sting's for Sting's retirement. I get that. And that retirement alone, even without any matches announced, already sold tickets because Sting is an icon. He is a legend. He has been in every major notable promotion that you can think of. He's been in the UWF, believe it or not. He was in the UWF. The original UWF by Bill Watts, Mid-South. I think he even had a brief stint in WCCW, just briefly. He then had a run, of course, notably with NWA/WCW. Then he went to NWA/TNA and did his TNA Impact Wrestling. Then, of course, he had his run with WWE finally, even though it ended sourly. And now here he is in AEW, and he's one half of the tag team champions. This guy has a legendary career, and it doesn't matter if you're a hardcore fan or if you are a casual fan throughout the years. You know who this man is, you know what he's done, and you know where he's been. Heck, he was even part of the WWA, World Wrestling All-Stars in Australia. Yeah. In Australia and England, he was part of that. And he was the world champion there too. The point I'm getting at is people know who Sting is. So again, even with the bad publicity for every other person in that company, when it comes to who they are and what they're about and what they're involved in, when you announce that Revolution, or you have Sting himself come out and announce that Revolution's his last dance, that's it, he's done. Even without any matches announced, except for that one, with even at that time unknown opponents, or unknown match or whatever it was going to be, just that announcement alone said, okay, boom, sellout. Because people want to be there. They want to see history in the making. They want to be there for his last in-ring match. And then, like I said earlier, the intrigue. The intrigue as to, what will be his next step? Will he just hang him up and never appear again? Or will, from a storyline perspective, Tony Khan maybe say, Sting, you're the new executive president. You're the Young Bucks. You're the Young Bucks boss now. Could that happen? We don't know. And that's what makes people invested in this, even more so than when it was first announced. And that's why tickets are selling out quickly. Because the closer we get to it, the more people are going to want to see it. But when it comes to everybody else, that's the major question. That's the major question when it comes to everybody else afterwards. And also what you book afterwards too. Because again, this lady who he's brought on, hopefully she and others are going to talk to him and say, Tony, we may have sold out the Greensboro Coliseum for Sting's last match, but we got to keep that momentum up and to really rebuild the confidence in our audience. We need to book smaller venues. And hopefully that's what happens. I mean, look at WWE, okay? Look at WWE. When they were going through a downfall, basically, the mid-90s, which apparently, early to mid-90s, which apparently wasn't a good time frame for any wrestling until the summer of of 96, that is, July of 96. But when you look at what WWE booked for Monday Night Raw, what they booked for Superstars, what they booked for Wrestling Challenge, and even some of the live events they booked, what did they book most of to save money as well as to recognize the predicament they were in? What did they book? Smaller venues. That's right. You can go here on YouTube, you can go on the WWE Network on Peacock, and you can see past Raws, past Superstars, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about around that time frame. I mean, they even started doing it before they entered that, because they could see that, yeah, attendance-wise with the bigger arenas for live events and Raws and all that, they weren't doing so well. But they realized that they could actually sell out smaller venues. They could. I mean, one notable place they always went to here in California was the Burnwood Country Club? The Burnwood Country Club? And guess what? Small venue, but they sold it out. You get what I'm saying, folks? You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying that, Tony Khan needs to go to a country club like Burnwood and book its center, little convention center, whatever it's called. I'm not saying he needs to do that, but look more into the smaller venues. Why do you think TNA sells out, Winslow, Ontario? Why do you think they sold out that college venue all the time? Because they realize that's all they can actually sell. They realize that if they go to a bigger venue, they're gonna get embarrassed. Anthem Sports, whether you like them or not, realizes, hey, if we book St. Clair's College, we're gonna sell out. And they do. Oh, we booked Center Stage Theater in Atlanta, the former home of WCW Saturday Night and WCW Pro. We're going to sell out. Oh, if we book the Palms, in Las Vegas, there's a good chance we're going to sell out. You get what I'm saying? Even the entertainment complex, the Rebel Entertainment Complex, whatever it's called, in Toronto, they realize they booked that, they're going to sell it out. Heck, even when Dixie Carter was in charge of the company, and they decided, we're going to book the Alamo Dome for lockdown. Did they decide, we're going to keep the entire venue open? We're going to keep the entire venue open and try to sell it out. No! They realized they didn't know where they're going to do that, so what did they do? They blocked off a majority of the stadium, but only kept a certain amount of seats in a certain section and certain amount of seats open to be sold. And guess what? Maybe not a sellout, but it was a decent-sized crowd that was close to it. You see what I'm saying? At least they had they had the booking knowledge to realize we can't book the entire Alamo Dome when they did that lockdown pay-per-view because they know they'd be embarrassed. They decided to do what was more suitable to them. Like, say you book the Alamo Dome, but do it in a way that's more comfortable, more reasonable, more satisfactory, if you will. AEW, Tony Khan and his crew need to take a lesson from this. And this lady, she's the VP of the content and everything. Hopefully she talked to Jeff Jarrett, who's in charge of booking or international booking and everything. Hopefully they come together, they talk with Tony, and whoever else is part of that team talks with Tony and says, Tony, we know we got the TD Water Garden booked and everything, but... And that's an issue too, because that assumingly is when Mercedes Moné is going to debut, and maybe even Okada. But here's the problem: that building can hold about 20,000, almost 20,000 plus people. There's no doubt. It can hold about maybe 1,800 for a basketball game and a hockey game. But they can hold more when it comes to a boxing event, a UFC event, a Bellator event, a PFL event, And even a wrestling event, it could hold more, and yet they're configuring it for less? That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. So what Tony Khan needs to do is listen to the team he's going to be putting together along with this lady who's going to be the VP of Content Creation, along with Jeff Jarrett and anybody else that has input. And basically, he needs to get together with them, listen to what they have to say, and reconsider where he books his events. Because you need to book small before you can basically book big. Start small, restart small, reset small, grow to be big again. Because if not, this is what's going to happen. You got Arthur Ashe Stadium, in New York, in Queens, New York, being booked not for Grand Slam, but for a pay-per-view. Now, Grand Slam might be the pay-per-view. It might be a pay-per-view now, but it's being booked for an AEW event. That holds 20,000, if not 30,000 people. The first time they went there, they sold it out. Second time, not a sellout. They want to sell it out again? Guess what? Book properly. Give them reasons to go there. Give them stars and stories to care about to go and watch and see the outcome for. Do that. Do that. And if that's not enough, if you can't, do that, imagine what Wembley's going to be like. Wembley last year, and I saw this live with my own eyes, Wembley had 85,000 plus. Now it's got half of that. It's got a fracture of that. Does that make AEW look good? No. Now I know people will say, oh, well, give it time. We have months to go before the event and da-da-da. And that's true, we do. But what happens if those ticket sales stay the way they are right now? What happens if we're a month away? If not in the month of All In, and they still stay that way. Maybe 1,000 more tickets or 10,000 more tickets get sold. That's great. But what if it doesn't reach, what if it doesn't reach the capacity last year's did? That's not a good sign. That you're only selling out half of Wembley Stadium. It's not good. I mean, what's crazy is even though I know it was a UK-based promotion, I can't think of it right now. I don't know if it was Rev Pro or one of the other UK major promotions over there that not everybody talks about, but others have been part of, major stars that is. One of those promotions booked Wembley Stadium. And guess what? They did over more fans attending that than what's being sold right now. Yeah, they didn't sell it out, but guess what? The tickets that got sold were decent enough. They were decent enough. To the point that people talk about, that people actually were impressed by that. You get what I'm saying? If Tony Khan doesn't want to be embarrassed with All In 2024, he needs to do a better job at booking his stars and booking the stories, and hopefully this lady coming in will help him do that. But hopefully she'll also give him a wake-up call along with everybody else on that team that, hey, you need to start focusing on the smaller venues and, for the time being until you can build yourself back up. And that might be what he has to do. He might have to look at a St. Clair's College, in Ontario. He might have to look at a entertainment complex center in Toronto. He might have to look at a Hammerstein ballroom. He might have to do all these kind of things to basically get a sellout for his company, for his shows, and not have to worry about being criticized all the time, and not have to pretend that everything's all right. You know that meme going around with that dog character sitting in the chair and there's fire going on around him, and he's saying, "Oh, this is fine, everything's fine." No, it's not. No, it's not. He knows it. He knows it, but why doesn't he not acknowledge it? Because he wants to prove that his company is on the same level as WWE, and it's not. It's not. He can come out and say, "Oh, we're not trying to compete with them. We know our place in the business." BS. You are trying to compete with them. You are. And yeah, you're going to have some hits here and there, like with Revolution, attendance-wise and everything, and the card might even back that attendance up, or the reasoning for that attendance up, and that's great. But you're going to have to build from that. Like I said in my wrestling news video, they have the components going forward into this year. They have the components to go forward into the spring and summer of 2024. They have the components to continuously go forward in the fall and winter of 2024. I mean, I go back to what could happen with Sting after Revolution. If, let's say, Tony Khan or Sting himself comes out and say, "Hey, I got named the executive president of AEW," which, by the way, would be a general manager, another way of saying general manager, authority figure. And basically you have that happen, and then Story makes him the, boss of the Bucks. That could be an interesting dynamic of power struggle. Maybe not on the same level as what we're seeing right now in WWE, but still it can be an interesting dynamic of power struggle, because now you have the Young Bucks and any of the other heel, wrestlers, men and women, or teams and factions, wanting to get away with certain things, but realize, well, we can't get away with this the way we want to, because Sting might stick his nose in and prevent us from doing that. So what do? Interesting dynamic. Makes people want to tune in to see how, to see if Sting's going to be able to foil certain heels, tactics or not. It's going to make people want to be invested if that happens, if that's the direction they go in. And if that's something they do, guess what? That's a good first step. That's the first component inserted and basically turned full on, basically to full power that Tony Khan needs to make happen, going into the rest of this year. Because post-Revolution, that's going to be the telling point for this company. Because you have Mercedes Moné, like everybody's been talking about, and Okada, like everybody's been talking about, coming in. And as I've mentioned before, you want Mercedes Moné to maybe exercise that opt-out option she's put in her contract, and leave before the year's out, basically pull a William Regal? Hell no. If you're Tony Khan, hell no, you don't want that. You want to keep her happy. You want to keep her around. And he will do whatever it takes to make that happen. Rankings be damned in the women's division. If she comes in and she basically says on her debut, double or nothing, I'm going to walk out the champion, and you have all these other women that are in the rankings being like, you can't jump ahead of us, you can have Mercedes say, oh, if you read my contract, it says that, yes, I can, because I'm the boss. I'm the CEO now of this division. That in a storyline aspect can make things interesting, because now you have all these women that are working their asses off to get a shot at the women's title. You're realizing that, well, why are we even competing? Why are we even wrestling? We're not going to get a shot at that title because she's going to be the first one. She's going to get a shot at double or nothing. There's nothing we can do. But what will make that interesting is, she can come out and say, yeah, I'm getting a shot at double or nothing, but there's nothing that says I have to face Toni Storm or Deonna Purrazzo, whoever's going to walk out the champion at Revolution. It doesn't say I'm facing them. It just says I'm facing the champion for the title. So you can have interesting aspects of, now you have all the women that would get a shot before Mercedes gets hers, competing to try to be the one that faces her and basically puts her in her place at double or nothing. You have that kind of interesting dynamic, and if you want her to be happy, you will give her that dynamic. You will give her that kind of story to help rejuvenate maybe the women's division to where it needs to be. Get this too. Even if you don't want to push her straight to the women's title, you can have her make her debut, and at the same time she makes her debut, who makes her return? Britt Baker. Off to the races you go. Because then you can have Britt say, hey, you're not going to come in here and take over a division that I helped put on the map. I'm not about to let somebody that's made a name for themselves in Japan and up in Connecticut, make a name for themselves and take over a division they have no right to be in or have handed to them on a silver platter. You can have that interaction happen, and again, off to the races you go. Off to the races you go, because now you have a storyline in the women's division, a storyline in AEW that people will be invested in that doesn't require a championship. The point I'm getting at is, if he doesn't want, as I've said before in my videos, if he doesn't want her to exercise that opt-out option in her contract and pull a William Regal, he needs to do this kind of stuff. He needs to let her and whoever she's going to work with in these storylines, in these programs, let them cook, let them do their own thing, and you're good to go. And also, he needs to start featuring, and he needs to also feature her and whoever she's going to be in a program with prominently week after week on Dynamite, maybe even on Collision, and give people a reason to care. Heck, you want people to tune in Collision on Saturday nights? Make this feature a storyline like that prominently. You know, say, hey, this interview between, this one-on-one interview that's going to be moderated by, let's say, Renee Parquette, you know, between Mercedes and Britt, is going to happen on Collision. Tune in. You know, and you can have people tune in to see exactly what's going to happen. You know, or if they don't tune in, post the full, you know, one-on-one, face-to-face between them on your YouTube page and promote that. Basically say, hey, if you didn't get to see the interview as it happened, it's going to be, the full uncut version is going to be on our YouTube page. Do that. Do that. And guess what? It'll get people watching. It'll get people invested. These are things he needs to do when it comes to someone like Mercedes. These are things he needs to do, and his team needs to help him do it. And hopefully the lady he's brought in will help that happen. And again, if he wants to make her happy, he wants to make Okada happy, and whoever else he brings in, let them have let them be focused on, and let them and whoever's going to work with them on the stories, and whoever they're going to be feuding with in a program with, let them cook. Let them cook and go from there. The point that I'm getting at is this. Tony Khan, post-revolution is going to say a lot. It's going to say a lot. And, you know, when you go back and you listen to what O'Shea Jackson says in that interview with Chris Van Vliet, and you listen to what others like JD and Andrew and just Alex and Solomon have to say, they all agree that AEW has the right components to make 2024 their year, the bounce back year. But they need to take the steps to make it happen. And also they need to basically, being AEW themselves, they need to let their fans know that they're not perfect. They need to basically tell them, look, they need to come out and say, look, we've had a rough year, you know, we're going to be 5 years old now, you know, with our first pay with Double or Nothing, we're going to celebrate 5 years officially as a company, you know, and then of course Dynamite 5 years, and you know, you gotta basically, if you're AEW, you need to be the ones that address your fans and say, please, don't take what we do out of context. Yes, we want to entertain you, but we're still learning. I, Tony Khan, am still learning on how things work in the wrestling business. And he says, and basically have him come out and admit that he's made some mistakes and that now he's learning from those mistakes and he's putting together a team that will help give you the best wrestling, sports entertainment product imaginable. And that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Because if not, you're going to have people like O'Shea Jackson come out, you know, and keep, you know, talking about how toxic and how, you know, bad the AEW diehards and hardcore wrestling fans are, because they don't get it. They don't get that, yes, along with good wrestling, you need to have a knowledge. You need to have an introduction to why this person, you know, man or woman, is a good in-ring competitor. You need to have a presentation given to you as to why you need to be invested in this character, in this person, and what they do in this ring, and not just be told by commentary, oh, this person is a DPW champion and da 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 da, and check it out on YouTube and Google it. No. You need more substance. You need more substance. Think about it this way. You go to Burger King and you say, I want a triple Whopper, triple Texas Whopper with all the trimmings. And you get your Whopper, you unwrap it, but what it really is just 3 meat patties, in a bun. No lettuce, no tomato, no cheese, no sauce, nothing. What are you going to do? Are you going to accept the triple Whopper as it's given to you? Or are you going to take it back and say, no, I don't want this. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I ordered. This is not what I hoped for. And say, give me back my money, or give me the full flavor. Give me what I asked for. Give me a reason to want to continuously come back here. Give me the full presentation. And I know it's a strange comparison to make, but that's basically how people need to view what's going on right now. Does Tony Khan want to continuously giving them a triple Whopper with nothing, no substance, not all the trimmings? Or does he want to give them a triple Whopper that has everything plus more? And by doing so, give them a reason to care. It's a strange comparison, but it's a fact. It's a fact. But it's up to him. Because everything people have said, from the attendance to how things are presented, everything is true to a T. It is. And Tony Khan's got no one but himself to blame. But hopefully now that he's hired on someone to be his VP content creator and be part of his creative writing staff, hopefully that's the first step. Again, he's got the components. Everybody in their own way, through all these videos that they have done, these interviews that they have done, have all said have said, not directly, but in their own unique way, have said what I've said. And that is, he's got the components to make 2024 AEW's year. But he needs to start taking the advice from those he's going to work with. And if one of those advice is to start booking smaller venues that he knows he can sell out, then so be it. I mean, again, you go back to, the WWE, when they would be, in the early to mid 90s, they would book smaller venues. And why? Because they knew that at that time, with the way wrestling was, they knew that if they tried booking the massive civic centers and everything, they wouldn't sell out. They'd be looking like a joke. So they want to have something that's going to have a full crowd. There you go. Book a venue like that. That's what WCW did too. Why do you think they constantly would have shows before Nitro happened? Why do you think they would have shows, at the Disney MGM Studios, or at the center stage in Atlanta? Because they knew they could sell it out. They could pack it out. They knew that. Why do you think TNA, for a while, even when they switched from TNA to Impact and back, they would keep going to Universal Studios? Because they knew they would pack it out. They would sell it out. Even if it was free of charge, they knew they'd get a sellout. You see what I'm saying? It's called smart booking strategy. And you combine that, to presenting your talent and focusing on your talent and introducing them to folks that may not know who they are, giving us a reason to care. You got a winning combination. You have the winning components to make this year your year. They're celebrating 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. And if Tony Khan doesn't want his 5-year anniversary, halfway from a decade, to be mired in negative criticism, then he needs to start waking up and realizing that he needs to reset. He needs to reset and take the baby steps necessary, to build back up. And if that means, somebody telling him, like his new VP, book smaller venues, then book smaller venues. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt you. It's just you admitting in your own subtle way, hey, I goofed up. Now I'm going to take my baby steps. And guess what? By booking these smaller venues, making them sold out, filled up and sold out and everything, it gives off the impression that, hey, this has importance to it. It has importance. Heck, you can highlight the sellout venue. You don't have to shadow out or darken out the empty spots in the arena. Now you can show off, hey, we got a sellout here. It's a small venue, but it's a sellout. You could do that. And by doing that, it makes your presentation look better. And oh, by the way, it makes the other venues that are bigger, like Arthur Ashe and Wembley Stadium, look more appealing to those that might want to attend. Like, hey, we want to be part of that kind of atmosphere, but we want to make it on a bigger scale. It makes it more appealing and attractive to those that are considering going to those events to actually go and make what they're seeing in these smaller venues look even bigger, or make it look even better on a higher scale. But that's up to Tony Khan. It's up to his team. But we'll see what happens. But I know this audio video went longer than it should, but I just had to get a lot of this off my chest. In this reply to the Chris Van Vliet interview with O'Shea Jackson, what he said, JD and Andrew Baydala's response to it, and what just Alex had to say. The thing is, Tony Khan, hopefully he's going to take the right steps post-Revolution, because if not, I feel sorry for Mercedes. I feel sorry for Okada. And I would not blame Mercedes if she has done it, if she exercises an opt-out option before the year's out and leaves. Maybe even before her time frame in that company is up and she leaves. I would not be surprised by that. And I would not be surprised if Danielson, he is somebody that Tony Khan relies on. I would not be surprised if he decides, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to go back to WWE, work there in a backstage capacity, maybe be a general manager again, maybe even be a part-time competitor in my career where it really started, with WWE. I don't think Tony Khan wants that to happen, but it will. Because Danielson might even say, nah, this ain't working out. That might be what happens. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. But it's up to Tony. It's up to Tony and his crew. And if this lady has the reputation of being someone with a background, in writing for stories and content that's garnered her a lot of daytime and primetime Emmys, then that's a good start. But Tony, it's up to you. It's up to you. And the first thing I think I would do, and hopefully they tell him this, is to address the fans and tell them, look, I apologize, I screwed up. I thought maybe we could be as big as WWE. I was wrong. Maybe even acknowledge that after you lost Phil Brooks, in something you didn't want to do, that you haven't been the same. You haven't been the same. So, TK, I wish you all the best of luck. But it's on you now. And the first step you should take is publicly apologize to your fans for your screw-ups. And tell them you're going to be resetting things now. And that from now on, you're going to be booking smaller venues until you regain and rebuild that trust with the fan base. And also tell the fans that are your diehard supporters to not make the wrestling community toxic in the manner they're doing, and to basically accept the fact that, hey, this company isn't perfect, neither company is perfect. And that's all you need to do. That's a big first step. If I'm Tony Khan, Tony, if I'm you, I would do that. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Again, I do apologize for this going a little longer than it should have. Live chat during the premiere, like the video, comment below. You'll also hear this on Rumble. But give me your thoughts. Love to hear from all of you on it. And until next time, I will talk to y'all later. Also, I will link the videos of what I talked about here in the here at the end, so you guys could click on them and check them out yourself. So until next time, guys, I am out. I'm going to get me some lunch now.